Om Shri Sai Ram, Chapter 4. Sai Baba's First Advent in Shirdi. Mission of the Saints, Shirdi a Holy Tirth, Personality of Sai Baba, Dictum of Goulibua, Appearance of Vitthal, Kshirsagar story, Das Ganu's bath in Prayag, Immaculate Conception of Sai Baba and his first advent in Shirdi, and 3 Wadas. In the last chapter, I described the circumstances which led me to write Sai Satcharita. Let me now describe the first advent of Sai Baba in Shirdi. Missions of the Saint. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, 7, 8, that whenever there is a decay of dharma, righteousness, and an ascendancy of unrighteousness, I manifest myself for the protection of the virtuous and the destruction of the vicious, and for the establishment of righteousness. I manifest myself age after age. This is the mission of the Lord and the sages and saints who are his representatives and who appear at appropriate times and work in their own way to fulfill that mission. For instance, when the twice born, that is the Brahmins, the Kshatriyas and the Vaisyas neglect their duties, and when the Sudras try to usurp the duties of other class, when spiritual preceptors are not respected but humiliated, when nobody cares for religious instructions, when everybody thinks himself very learned, when people begin to partake of forbidden foods and intoxicating drinks, when under the cloak of religion people indulge in malpractices, when people belonging to different sects fight among themselves, when Brahmins fail to do Sandhya adoration and the orthodox leave their religious practices, when yogis neglect their meditation, when people begin to think that wealth, progeny, wife, and their sole concern, and thus turn away from the true path of salvation, then saints appear and try to set matters right by their words and action. They serve us as beacon lights and show us the path and the right way for us to follow. In this way, many saints, Nivruti, Dhyanadev, Muktabai, Namdev, Gora, Gunai, Eknath, Tukaram, Narahari, Narsibai, Sergeant Kasai, Swata, Ramdas, and various others did appear at various times to show the right path to the people, and so the present advent came as Shri Sai Baba of Shirdi. Shirdi, a holy Tirth. The banks of the Godavari river in the Ahmednagar district, and very fortunate, for they gave birth and refuge to many a saint, prominent among them being Dhyaneshwar. Shirdi also falls in the Koparkan Taluka or the Ahmednagar district. After crossing the Godavari river at Koparkan, one gets on way to Shirdi. When you go 3 kos, that is 9 miles, you come to Limgon, from where Shirdi is visible. Shirdi is as famous and well known as other holy places like Gangapur, Nishnawadi, Adambur on the banks of the Krishna river. As the devotee Damoji flourished and blessed Mangalveda near Pandharipur, as Samrat Ramdas at Sajatgand, as Shri Narsimha Saraswati at Saraswati Wadi, so Sainath flourished at Shirdi and blessed it. Personality of Sai Baba. It is on account of Shri Sai Baba that Shirdi grew into importance. Let's see what sort of personage Sai Baba was. He conquered this sansar, that is worldly existence, which is very difficult and hard to cross. Peace or mental calm was his ornament, and he was the repository of wisdom. He was the home of Vaishnav devotees, most generous like Karna, amongst all the quintessence of all essences. He had no love for perishable things and was always engrossed in self realization, which was his sole concern. He felt no pleasure in the things of this world or of the world beyond. His antarang, heart, was as clear as the mirror, and his speech always rained nectar. The rich or poor people were the same to him. He neither knew nor cared for honor or dishonor. He was the Lord of all beings. He spoke freely and mixed with all people, watched the acting and dances of Nach girls, and heard ghazal songs. Still, he served not an inch from samadhi, that is mental equilibrium. The name of Allah was always on his lips. While the world awoke, he slept, and while the world slept, he was vigilant. His inner self was as calm as the deep sea. His ashram could not be determined, nor his actions could be definitely determined. And though he lived in one place, he knew all the transactions of the world. His darbar was imposing. He told hundreds of stories daily. He swerved not an inch from his vow of silence. He always leaned against the wall in the masjid or walked morning, noon, and evening towards Lendi, that is Nala and Chowdi. Still, he at all times abided in the self. Though a Siddha, he acted like Sadhaka. He was meek, humble, and egoless, and pleased all. Such was Sai Baba. And as the soil of Shirdi was trodden by Sai Baba's feet, it attained extraordinary importance. As Dhyaneshwar elevated Alandi, Eknath did to Paitan, so Sai Baba raised Shirdi. Blessed are the grass, leaves, and stones of Shirdi, for they could kiss the holy feet of Sai Baba and take his dust on their heads. Shirdi became to us devotees another Pandharipur, Jagannath, Dwaraka, Banaras, Kashi, and Rameshwar, Badrikedar, Nasik, Triambakeshwar, Ujjain, and Mahakaleshwar or Mahabaleshwar, Gokram. Contact of Sai Baba in Shirdi was like our study of Veda and Tantra. It quietened our sansar, world conscious, and rendered self-realization. The darshan of Shri Sai was our yoga sadhana, and talk with him removed our sins. Shampooing his legs was our bath in Triveni Prayag, and drinking the holy water of his feet destroyed our sins. To us, his commands were Vedas, and accepting eating his udi, sacred ashes, and prasad was all purifying. He was our Sri Krishna and Shri Ram, who gave us solace, and he was our Parabrahma, absolute reality. He was himself beyond the pair of Dvandvas, opposites, never dejected nor elated. He was always engrossed in his self as existence, knowledge, and bliss. Shirdi was his center, but his field of action extended far beyond to Punjab, Calcutta, North India, Gujarat, Dhaka, now Bangladesh, and Konkan. Thus the fame of Sai Baba spread far and wide, and people from all parts came to take his darshan and be blessed. By mere darshan, minds of people, whether pure or impure, would become quiet at once. They got here the same unparalleled joy that devotees get at Pandharpur by seeing Vitthal Rahumai. This is not an exaggeration. Consider what a devotee says in this respect. Dictum of Goulibua. An old devotee by name Goulibua, aged about 95 years, was a Varkai of Pandari. He stayed for 8 months at Pandharipur and for 4 months, Akashada to Kartik, that is July to November, on the banks of the Ganges. He had a donkey with him for carrying his luggage and a disciple as his companion. Every year he made his wari or trip to Pandharipur and came to Shirdi to see Sai Baba, whom he loved most. He used to gaze at Baba, saying, "This is Pandharinath, Vitthal incarnate, the merciful Lord of the poor and helpless." This Goulibua was an old devotee of Vithoba and had made many a trip to Pandari, and he testified that Sai Baba was real Pandharinath. Vitthal himself appeared. Sai Baba was very fond of remembering and singing God's name. He always uttered Allah Malik, God is Lord, and in his presence made others sing God's name continuously, day and night, for all 7 days of the week. This is called Nam Saptava. Once he asked Das Ganu Maharaj to do a Nam Sapta. He replied that he will do it provided he was assured that Vitthal would appear at the end of the 7th day. Then Baba placed his hand on his chest, assured him that certainly Vitthal will appear, but for that the devotee must be earnest and devout. The Dankapuri Thakur of Dakunath, the Pandari or Vitthal, the Dwaraka of Ranchod Krishna, is here Shirdi. One need not go far out to see Dwaraka. Will Vitthal come here from some outside place? He is here. Only when the devotee is bursting with love and devotion, Vitthal will manifest himself here, that is Shirdi. After the Sankalp was over, Vitthal did manifest himself in the following manner. Kaka Sahib Dikshit was as usual sitting in meditation after his bath. He saw Vitthal in a vision. When he went at noon for Baba's darshan, Baba asked him point blank, "Did Vitthal Patel come? Did you see him? He is very truant fellow. Catch him firmly, otherwise he will escape if you are even a little inactive." This happened in the morning, and at noon there was another Vitthal darshan. A hawker came there for selling 25 or 30 pictures of Vithoba. This picture exactly tallied with the figure that had appeared in Kaka Sahib vision. On seeing this and remembering Baba's word, Kaka Sahib Dikshit was very much surprised and delighted. He bought one picture of Vithoba and placed it in his shrine for worship. Bhagavantrao Kshirsagar story. How fond was Baba of Vitthal worship was illustrated in Bhagavantrao Kshirsagar story. The father of Bhagavantrao was a devotee of Vithoba and used to make waris, that is annual trips, to Pandharipur. He also had an image of Vithoba at home, which he worshipped. After his death, his son stopped everything, the wari, the worship, and Shraddha ceremony, etc. When Bhagavantrao came to Shirdi, Baba, on remembering his father, at once said, "His father was my friend, and so I dragged him, the son, here. He never offered Naivedya, offering of food, and so he starved Vitthal and me. So I brought him here. I shall remonstrate with him now and set him to worship." Das Ganu's bath in Prayag. The Hindus think that a bath in the holy Tirth of Prayag, where the Ganges and Yamuna meet, is very miraculous, and thousands of pilgrims go there periodically to have the sacred bath there. Once, Das Ganu thought that he should go to Prayag for a bath and come to Baba to get his permission for doing so. Baba replied to him, "It's not necessary to go so far. Our Prayag is here, believe me." Then, wonder of wonders, when Das Ganu placed his head on Baba's feet, out flowed streams of Ganga Yamuna water from both the toes of Baba. Seeing this miracle, Das Ganu was overwhelmed with feelings of love and adoration, and tears filled my eyes. Inwardly, he felt inspired, and his speech burst forth into a song in praise of Baba and his Leelas. Immaculate Conception of Sai Baba and his first advent in Shirdi. Nobody knew the parents, birth, or birthplace of Sai Baba. Many enquiries were made, many questions were put to Baba and others regarding these, but no satisfactory answer or information has yet been obtained. Practically, we know nothing about these matters. Namdev and Kabir were not born like ordinary mortals. They were found as infants in mother of pearls, Namdev being found on the bank Brimrati river by Goni, and Kabir on the bank Bhagirathi river by Tamal. Similar was the case with Sai Baba. He first manifested himself as a young lad of 16 years under a neem tree in Shirdi, for the sake of bhaktas. Even then, he seemed to be full of knowledge of Brahma. He had no desire for worldly objects even in a dream. He kicked out Maya, and Mukti, deliverance, was serving at his feet. One old woman of Shirdi, the mother of Nana Chudar, described him thus: "This young lad, fair, smart, and very handsome, was first under the neem tree, seated in an asan. The people of the village were wonderstruck to see such a young lad practicing hard penance, not minding heat and cold. By day he associated with none, by night he was afraid of nobody. People were wondering and asking whence this young chap has turned up. His form and features were so beautiful that a mere look endeared him to all. He went to nobody's door, always sat near the neem tree. Outwardly he looked very young, but by his action he was really a great soul. He was the embodiment of dispassion and was an enigma to all. One day it so happened that God Khandoba possessed the body of some devotee, and people began to ask him, Deva, God, you please enquire, what blessed father's son is this lad, and whence did he come? God Khandoba asked them to bring a pickaxe and dig in a particular place. When it was dug, bricks were found underneath a flat stone. When the stone was removed, a corridor was seen in which 4 samais, that is light, were burning. The corridor led to a cellar where cow-mouth shaped structure, wooden boards, rosaries were seen. Khandoba said, "This lad practiced penance here for 12 years. Then the people began to question this lad about this. He put them off by telling them that this was his guru's place, his holy button, and requested them to guard this well. The people then closed the corridor as before. As Ashwatha and Adumbar trees are held sacred, Baba regarded this neem tree equally sacred and loved it most. Mahasalpati and other Shirdi devotees regard this site as the resting place, Samadhistan, of Baba's Guru and prostrate before it. 3 Wadas. The site with the neem tree and surrounding space was bought by Mr. Hari Vinayak Sate, and on this site a big building style Sate Wada was erected. This Wada was the sole resting place for pilgrims who flocked there. A platform was built round the neem tree, and lofts with steps were constructed. Under the steps, there is a niche facing south, and devotees sit on the platform facing north. It is believed that he who burns incense there on Thursdays and Fridays evening will by God's grace be happy. This Vada was old and depleted and needs repairs. The necessary repairs, additions, and alterations have been made now by the Sanasthan. Then, after some years, another Vada, Dikshit's Vada, was constructed. Kaka Sahib Dikshit, solicitor of Mumbai, had gone to England. He had injured his leg in an accident there. The injury could not be got rid of by any means. Nana Sahib Chandorkar advised him to see Sai Baba. So he went to Sai Baba in 1909 and requested him to cure the lameness of his mind rather than that of his leg. He was so much pleased with the darshan of Sai Baba and that he described to reside in Shirdi. So he built a Vada for himself and other devotees. The foundation of this building was laid on 10/12/1910. On this day, two other important events took place. Number one, Mr. Dada Sahib Kapade was given permission to return home, and number two, the night aarti at the Chavadi was started. The Vada was completed and was inhibited on the Shri Ram Navami day in 1911 with due rites and formalities. Number three, then another Vada or palatial mansion was put up by the famous millionaire Mr. Booty of Nagpur. A lot of money was spent on this building, but it was all well utilized as Sai Baba body is resting in this Vada, which is now called the Samadhi Mandir. The site of this mandir formerly had a garden which was watered and looked after by Baba. Three Vadas thus came up where there were none formerly. Of these, Satavadi was most useful to all in the early days. The story of the garden, which was attended by Sai Baba with the help of Vaman Tatya, the temporary absence of Sai Baba from Shirdi, and his coming again to Shirdi with the marriage party of Chand Patel, the company of Devidas, Jankidas, and Gangagir. Baba wrestling match with Mohammedan Tamboli residing in the masjid. Love of Mr. Dangle and other devotees and other incidents will be described in the next chapter. Bow to Shri Sai, peace be to all. Om Shri Sai Ram.